Hello everybody, my name is Coolblue and I'm bringing out this video of me talking about some board games, and today I'm going to be finishing up my playthrough series, or at least my initial playthrough series. I'll probably do some more playthroughs of Railroad Tiles, and this is kind of a post-finished playthroughs situation. So let me go ahead and start our music in the background here, because you know I love my background music. That's to talk about every single time. And I have to read out some stats here, because I think it's important to read some stats. Actually, I gotta go edit one of my stats because I just realized I had it wrong. And we know that improper data does not help anything. Let's see, worlds, there we go. Let's edit this. Edit, that's not the one, no. There we go. All right, fixed. So as far as everything goes, I've done a playthrough of Railroad Tiles and all the expansions. I've played, I played Railroad Tiles a total of 56 times throughout the course of all this. That's granted, 5 of those times were not me playing for recording purposes, but at first I started off with the Railroad Tiles series just by doing a simple playthrough of each one. And I did that 3 times, and then I went back and did 2 playthroughs and a video that you all have seen in the series. I live streamed that, which, by the way, I live stream on Twitch. So if you want to check me out on live stream, twitch.tv/coolblue. That's CULBLU. But I live streamed those, and I recorded those video. That's a video series that this is a part of. And then also, like I said, I played a few solo games. I played a few multiplayer games with some of my friends off stream. And I might revisit this series by doing a playthrough, like a multiplayer playthrough version of it. But for right now, I just want to kind of just talk about post-finishing these playthroughs. Again, 56 playthroughs. Let me see how many are solo, because I can just filter for that. I'm using the Board Game Stats app to keep track of my stuff here. Let's see, anybody? Okay, all right. All right, well, I can't filter fast enough to talk about it in the video, so I'm just going to keep on going. Oh, no, I had it here. All right. 55 times is how many times I've played. That's not, never mind. Okay, I give up. I was trying to get some cool stats to say how many times I played the game, just to kind of express that I've played the game a lot. And after finishing all those playthroughs, both personal playthroughs and playthroughs in preparation for this video series and playthroughs for this video series, I still enjoy this game a lot. There are definitely some quirks that I'm not a fan of, and I'll definitely talk about those as we go along. But I wanted to do this video to kind of just do a retrospective, if you will, on my experience with Railroad Tiles and all of the 8 expansions that are currently out right now. I did not get the Kickstarter edition. I only have the retail version, so I do not have access to the 5th player expansion, and I do not have access to the hospitals and hospice, whatever the other one was. I do not have access to those, but I will say that of all the expansions, I said at the top of this video series that my favorite was Monuments, and that still holds, and my least favorite was Lakes, and that still holds. Both Monuments and Lakes have impressed / not impressed me, respectively. And I'll use the rule books because you guys probably don't know the game based on the color of the bags, but each expansion does come with its own bag. So these are the expansions that come with their own bags, and the Worlds expansion is the only exception, because that one just has a bunch of extra modules and tiles. But from here on out, I'll be using the rule books to kind of represent each one, so you can kind of see a pretty picture to look at to understand what we're talking about. So I'm not going to do a full exhaustive review like I did before, but I will kind of talk about each one in terms of what I think it adds to the game, and we're just kind of putting into a standardized format, what I think people might like and what I think people won't like, and then my own personal opinion at the very end. Again, because all these videos have been inundated with my personal opinion. So starting off with the Canals expansion. The Canals expansion is one that basically adds canals, and I think people will like the fact that it gives like a little bit of an extra challenge, but it doesn't change the game up too much. So it's not too offensive, it's not too hard to jump into, it's not adding too many rules. There's a little bit of technicality with how the bridges work, and got to pay attention to that. But overall, I think this one is like a nice starter one. Oh, I can also talk about my ratings, because I did go back and rank each one of these on Board Game Geek. So let me bring that up too, so I can talk about that at the same time. Let's see, Board Game Geek, Collection, and Railroad Tiles. So I think I rated this one as a 7 out of 10. And all of these scores are kind of relative to my score on Railroad Tiles, the base game. The base game I ranked at a 7.5. So just keep that in mind. So Railroad Tiles, go. Okay. So as I said before, the base game, I gave a ranking of railroad tiles for 7.5. I think it's a solid game. I think it's great. Clearly I wouldn't continue playing this if I didn't think it was great, as I have paused the previous series in the past because I didn't enjoy them too much. Canals, I marked as a 7 out of 10. A 7 out of 10 on the ranking. So relative to Railroad Tiles, the base game, I don't think it's that much more impressive, or not impressive. It didn't do enough for me personally. But I do think people will like I said, the simplicity of the extra rule that it adds, and it also looks very pretty on the map. And it gives you some additional, some forgiveness, if you will, with the gondolas and how it lets you place them out. So I think Railroad Tiles, the Canals expansion, does give you a good bit, and I guess I'll just put the components. These are inside of geek boxes that I have here. But yeah, the components are just basically the tiles. These are the wooden pieces it gives you, the gondolas and the bridges, and then it gives you some canal ends, and of course the bag of tiles. Boom, like that. Okay, so that's on the Canals one. I do think it's pretty fun, and I'm not offended to play it. I do think it's kind of like a good intro for people. The next one, because I played all these in alphabetical order. Oh no, this is out of order. The next one is going to be Countrysides. So Countrysides is my third favorite expansion out of the whole entire list. And I think Countryside gives like a nice complex puzzle without being too complex. It gives you the ability to, or it gives you an additional game of like adding in the animals on a kind of like an area segmenting thing that you're trying to do. And you're trying to essentially draft not just for the tiles that you want or the tiles that you can get, but you're also trying to be mindful of which animals you're getting, because you can get a lot of points from putting animals in the planes that they're on the barns. And I think it's pretty nice that it gives you that additional scoring without adding too much overhead. You do have another thing that you have to put in the row for people to draw when they're drawing their columns, so it adds like an extra step, but it's not too terribly extra complex. The scoring is relatively straightforward, and I think that of all the expansions, this one I think does add a lot without doing a lot, which I think is really good. That's the reason why for me personally it ranks up higher, especially versus one of the other expansions I'll talk about a little bit later, but that's why it ranks a little bit higher for me personally. So I did give the Countryside expansion, I did give an 8 out of 10 on Board Game Geek. That's my personal rating for it. And that means that I think that this enhances the base game by a good bit. It gives me personally some extra puzzle, and I can see people liking the fact that it kind of gives an extra puzzle without being too complex. Something that you can just kind of throw somebody in blind and they'll be able to figure out after the first round of 8. So that's actually pretty good. So I think this one's really good. I think this is a strong contender for one of my favorites, which is why it's in my top 3 out of the 8 personally. So it's Countryside. It comes with these little animal meeples. So it gives you a sheep, it gives you a cow, it gives you a pig, it gives you your tiles that you'll have for your objectives, and of course it gives you a bag of tiles, just like the rest of them. So that's what that gives you. So move that off to the side as well. I gotta figure out, actually I'm just gonna put this all the way to the side. 1 second. Clean up my space here. There we go. So that is Countrysides. So moving on to the next one. Oops. Moving on to the next one is Deserts. So the Desert expansion is an expansion that basically gives you another type of map that you can build. So you're building out your normal map, and then you have desert tiles that kind of add like another path. They give you stations that you can kind of summon when you have a desert tile meeting, or a desert tile path meeting a railroad path or meeting a road path. So it kind of gives you like a very straightforward, like easy, like, you know, turnkey way to just like put this tile here and then, okay, cool, now it's legal. So I do like the idea of the implementation of it. It also gives you a set collection aspect where you're in the desert, you're trying to go and pick out the different things. So I can see people liking the set collection aspect of it. I can see people loving the kind of the aesthetic that it puts. I don't care too much for the looks of it personally, but I do think it kind of shakes up the look of it, which is nice. So it's not the same every single time you look at it, and that's been a thing that I think people will like. And a thing I don't think people, or I think some people may not like, is that it does kind of take away some of the penalty of building stuff. So a desert tile will have different paths, desert paths like I mentioned before, but desert paths do not count as negative points against you. So as a result of that, it makes the game a little bit easier. As far as like, you know, minimizing your negative points that you have, if you just invest heavily in some desert tiles to kind of, you know, in-cap all of your roads and all of your railroads by the end of the game. Definitely a much easier said than done, but I do think that it kind of makes it takes the difficulty of the game and it ratchets it down, and I didn't appreciate that personally, because I don't think it's that much of a complicated game. I don't think it's that hard of a game. So I did rank it as a 6.5 out of 10 for me personally, so I do think it lowered the enjoyment that I had of the base game. I think the base game was perfectly fine, and then Desert came along and did some stuff. I was like, it's a cool idea, but I don't personally like it. So that's what I gave that one. The Desert stuff gives you some extra tiles or some extra objective tokens that you have to swap out the original ones for. So there's 3 of them that are specific to this expansion. It also gives you the stations that you would put, and it gives you some nice, adorable camels, which I'll switch to my other camera so we can kind of see a little bit close up. So some nice, adorable camels that you can kind of put on your little desert path, and of course your objective tiles over there. So that is what that one gives you. All right, moving on to the next one. Oh, and it gives you your bag of tiles, of course, which is this one. I actually like this bag. I like the look of it. I thought I liked the orange one, but I like the yellow one a little bit better. Just me personally. So, all right, next one is going to be Energy. So Energy is the premier puzzle. If you would like an expansion that makes the game more complicated than I think personally it should, so I'm very biased against this, clearly. I think this is your expansion. This one gives you power lines that you have to connect. So you can kind of, have wind turbines that are connected to power station or power lines, and the power lines will power the city. It'll give you some additional city scoring. I can give you some challenges that are associated with that, with its objective tiles that it has involved, where you're trying to have power lines connect to like all corners, or you're trying to have it be surrounded and stuff like that. So it's neat. It does some cool things. I personally don't like this one. For reasons I'll talk about in a second, but I can see other people not liking it because I think it makes this game that is very simple and straightforward, and it makes it more complicated. The effect that I'll say in this one is the difference of playing Cascadia versus Calico. If you have any context in the board game space, you might know the game Cascadia. You also might have heard of the game Calico, but if you haven't, the reason why I bring up that analogy is because Cascadia is as easy as it looks, and Calico is nowhere near as easy as it looks. I guess a better analogy would be Wingspan. For a brand new person playing a board game, Wingspan is a few extra steps more than what a person will be going into, especially if all they've ever played before has been like a Ticket to Ride or like a Connect 4. Like if Ticket to Ride is the most complicated game, then Wingspan, in my opinion, is a little bit more complex. But rabbit hole aside, what I'm trying to say is that I think this one kind of complicates up railroad tiles, and it kind of takes the formula that railroad tiles has and it adds extra layers that are overbearing. So as a result of that, I did rank this one at the same level as Deserts. I ranked it as a 6.5. I think it's a solid showing if you just want puzzles. If you just like puzzles and you just want a puzzle in your game, this is fun. But I think the randomness that exists of the tiles showing up, so you don't get to control or you don't have much agency in the destiny of which tiles show up, that hurts the funness of it. Because I feel like for the amount of planning that you had to do in this expansion, or because of this expansion, it would be nice to have some mechanism for you to have more agency over your choice of what came out or when what came out. Maybe give you some kind of swap option or something like that. That would be cool. Like, kind of push your luck situation. But it really boils down to, I think this one complicates a game in a way that that may not be appealing to a lot of people. You look at Railroad Tiles, you see a simple game, you want a simple game. You look at Wingspan, you see a simple game, you want a simple game. You don't get that with Wingspan unless you, especially if you're brand new to the board game world. Wingspan's not that complicated, I just want to clarify. I'm just saying that from like an entry level, like you've played Checkers and Connect 4, going straight to Wingspan is a little bit of a jump. But I think Railroad Tiles Energy expansion just kind of muddies up the water a little bit too much. So that's the reason why I ranked it 6.5. I can see some people not liking it because it just adds too much complexity to it. It definitely, I've only played this one solo, and I can definitely see this like making the game just last from a like 45-minute game with friends to like an hour-and-a-half long game, because people are really thinking hard about what they connect and which one they take and trying to place their things and get the puzzle all put together with their energy lines, and that to me sounds like it's a little bit much. This one does come with these windmill wooden pieces. These are pretty good. And it also gives you, sorry, I got hair in there. It does not give you my hair, but it also gives you some extra tokens that will replace some other ones. Some objective tokens, I think is what they're called. And of course the objective tiles that come with it. Also, I think this is important to note. Apparently, the first print run of the expansions will have screen printed meeples. So if you see the meeples and you see it has like this little design on it, which I'll switch over the other camera so you can kind of see a little bit closer. This is only in the first run in the Kickstarter. So if you have the Kickstarter version, you've got this. If you got the first print run of the expansion, then you got this. But apparently Horrible Guild is in their future prints of this game, second prints and third prints and whatever wave of prints, they're not going to have screen printed stuff. So just be mindful of that when you get your own expansion. It may not look as flashy as some of the other stuff. Okay, of course. Also, you get a nice little purple bag. And these bags are nice. I do like the bags. They did a good job with picking out the bag material and getting the colors to be distinct and separate. I do appreciate that greatly, especially considering my storage solution for this game. All right, moving on next, we got the Forest expansion. So the Forest expansion is the simplest expansion. I think if you want an expansion that basically gives you the base game and it gives you more of the same without adding too much, then I think Forest is nice. I also think Worlds is nice, but we'll talk about Worlds when we get to it. But I think Forest is probably the best candidate for this. Doesn't change the base game that much. Like it adds one extra scoring condition. And to be fair, the Canals expansion only adds one extra scoring condition. The Deserts expansion adds maybe 2 other scoring conditions, so on and so forth. So it's not that an extra scoring condition is going to make it too complex or less complex. But what I'm ultimately trying to say is that the Forest one, I think, is a very, very simple, like straightforward. Everything is kind of here. You know this is more of the same. We don't have to teach you anything else. It's just you got Forest now. And that's nice. So it's one that I ranked the lowest. Actually, no, that's not true. Did I rank this one the lowest? No, that's not true. I did not rank this one the lowest. I ranked Links the lowest, which we'll talk about next. But I did rank this as a 6 out of 10. And the reason why I gave it a 6 out of 10 is because I don't think it added anything to the game. I don't really think it took anything away from the game. But I think if I were to repurchase this, and I said this previously, I would just skip this one. The beauty of this one is that it does give people who just want really simple, straightforward. I can play this with my kids. I can play this with my grandma, or play this with my friend who doesn't play board games too much. If they're agreeable, or if they understand the railroad tiles workflow, or mechanic flow, the game flow, I guess is what I'm trying to say. This one's a good one to kind of step them up into. It basically changes nearly nothing. And as a result, it's one that I don't really find too engaging for myself, because it's like, this didn't really do anything but just give me prettier tiles. So that's a plus. But I can definitely see people not liking the fact that it doesn't really do too much. It doesn't add anything really. Mechanically speaking, it gives you some scoring for the Overwatch towers, or watchtowers, whatever they're called. And it gives you some forest cluster scoring, which is, it's cool. It's just kind of more of the same of city scoring. So there's a market for this one for sure. It is not me, but it gives you these tiles, which I do like. I do like the watchtowers. I do think they look pretty nice. I'll get the zoom in. I'll try to give a little bit of screen time for each one, I guess. So it gives you these little towers, and it also gives you, some additional tokens that you replace some ones in there, and the rule books will tell you which ones to replace. And it gives you this bag of tiles, which, like I said, I thought I would like this bag better than the yellow one, but I kind of like the yellow one better. I think the vibrance of it, like it's almost like I don't want to say it's almost like a neon yellow, but it's just, the deserts bag just looks a little bit better to me. This one, I guess it looks fine. I mean, I wear orange all the time, you can see there. So it's a pretty vibrant orange, but that's what you get with the Forest one. All right, moving on to the next one. We have Lakes. As you heard me allude to already, Lakes is the expansion that I liked the least. I actually will just tell you my ranking up front. I think I ranked as a 5.5. Yep, 5.5 out of 10. This is a hard pass for me personally, but the reason why it's a hard pass for me is because I don't think it adds anything that's really. I don't think it adds anything that I would have wanted. Like I have my problems with the energy expansion. And I have my problems with the Forest expansion not adding enough. I have my problems with the energy expansion adding too much. But I feel like this one simultaneously did both. It did not add enough while also adding too much. I don't know how it accomplished it, but it did. So with the lakes expansion, essentially it gives you the ability to make bodies of water in the middle of your builds, in the middle of your maps. And these bodies of water, they'll be connected by ferry stations. So you bring up a road that's hitting a body of water, and you'll get a ferry station. And it basically turns that ferry station into one giant station. That entire lake is one giant station. So that's really nice for you to be able to get like some really impossible routes going. Like you can get like, you know, 5 or 6 different, or 7 or 8 different roads connecting into like the same lake body of water. And that will count as one giant station. So that means that that's technically one continuous road all around. So that's nice in concept, but in the actual playthrough of it, because of how fiddly things get, because you do have these little lake pieces here that will cover up the edge of the water. And these look nice, but when you start building your, I'll just put some tiles out here. When you start putting your tiles out and you have like your map being built, it's like for instance, using this as a very bad example, this would cause this to be like that. So you have this laying over it, and you know, things just kind of get really cluttered at a certain point. And it's not that I'm opposed to clutter. I mean, I'm a person who enjoys board games like Clinic, which if you don't know, Clinic is basically fiddly the board game. I enjoy it greatly though, because it's an efficiency puzzle that I just happen to enjoy. But this is an amount of like fiddliness that I don't expect and don't anticipate from a game like this. Like you can kind of visualize this getting really bad as I add more tiles to this, and it's like, you know, that bumps, it's like, oh no, I'll shoot, and I gotta put a token here, it's like, oh man, everything's all over the place. So because of this definitely dropped it by half a point for me personally. But also just the benefit, the trade-off that you get for doing the expansion or using the expansion doesn't seem like enough. Like the fact that you have your roads being interrupted continuously, you have your empty signs being interrupted continuously, it just feels like it's not cohesively adding something in a smooth way compared to the other expansions. If this was a standalone one, I could understand. It's like, okay, they're trying something new. They as in Horrible Guild are trying something new, but it's not. It's in Congress with the rest of its siblings, and because of that, it ends up in a situation where it just seems like it's not fun. So that's why I personally don't like it, because I think it's a little bit too fiddly for this kind of game, or this simplistic of a game where you kind of, you know, throwing tiles down, doing your Carcassonne thing and having fun, Carcassonne-like thing, I should say, tile laying thing, and having fun. And on top of that, the benefit that you get for having a lake doesn't seem like to be enough. I mean, it's still really good. Like from objectively speaking, it's really, really good. And also the lakes don't count for negatives at the end of the game if it's on an open lake area. So you can do some really cool stuff with scoring. I'm pretty sure you really hit like a really, really high like banger type score in this game with this expansion. But it's just not for me. This is not for me personally, and I can see people not liking it because of the fiddliness. I can see people not liking it because it just kind of changes the language of how roads work and stuff, and it's just the whole thing. So it's a whole production. It's one that I don't like. I don't enjoy it. I'm not gonna crap on it. I do think if you want to kind of have like something that gives you more pretty maps, this one definitely made a pretty map once you got all the pieces to be aligned. So there's that. Okay, all right, I'm trying to make sure I stay positive here, but yeah, lakes, I do not enjoy lakes. Okay, next is gonna be Monuments. Monuments is my favorite expansion. Monuments is my top expansion. Out of all the 8, Monuments is the one that I would buy twice if I had to, because I liked Monuments. Monuments did let me down a little bit, because I went back and understood the rule a little bit better about how the movement worked. But essentially in Monuments, while you're building your map, you'll have an archaeologist pawn, and you get to move that pawn around the map to discover monuments. And the monuments that you discover will be based on tiles from the expansion, and you'll take those expansion tiles and place them around. And it's really fun for me because it gives you, it makes you think about how you're building your map. Because your archaeologist pawn can move just basically as far, like from one station to another when it comes to train. So I can move from one station to another, so I can just go wee on the train line. But if they're on the road, if they're on a highway, then they have to walk the highway 1 square at a time. And you only have but so many activations. You have 3 action points that you're given every round to move your archaeologist around to do stuff. And those action points are used to move, and they're also used to explore the spots. So as a result of that, you're kind of trying to manage those, and you can also sacrifice your pinpoint placements for your tokens that you'll get, your tiles that or your meeples that you'll get around. You can sacrifice those to get more action points. So you can sacrifice one pinpoint to get an extra action point, or you can sacrifice both to get 2 more. And you can also spend stars to give you 1 additional action point for your archaeologist. And it's like a nice, interesting balance, in my opinion, of like, okay, I want to get scoring this way, but also I want to get scoring this way. Because with monuments, at the end of the game, for every monument that your archaeologist has explored or that you've resurrected on your map, you get 1 point for every monument, and then for every set, because there's 3 different types of monuments, for every set of 3 that you have, you'll get 3 extra points. So you essentially can, if you do things right and you get 12 monuments and they happen to be 4 of each, then that will give you basically 24 points, because it's going to give you the 12 points for having each one, and then for having the sets, it's going to give you 3 points for each set, so 3 times 4, so 12, so it's going to give you 24 points. So you can get some really high scores, and on top of that, it feels really fun to be able to walk on the map and use the map that you're building. Again, your archaeologist encourages you to build your map a certain way, so your map ends up looking a little bit more specific. It causes you to be more mindful of how you place things. I can gush on endlessly about how much I like this expansion, but I do like this one personally a lot. Some things I think people might end up not liking is the whole fact that you have an archaeologist phase. So the flow of this game, the flow of railroad tiles is basically you take your tiles, you place them, you put your pinpoint things, and then you move on. With this expansion, you have to place your you pick your column, you place your tiles, you move your archaeologist, you figure out if anybody's going to do any extra movements, and then you do your pinpoints, and then you say, oh wait, hold on, I want to go back. I want to not put this pinpoint. I want to actually move one more and do this. So I can see that being very messy, especially in a multiplayer game, because keep in mind I play all this solo. So I can definitely see that becoming a problem from like a phasing perspective, and just kind of making it overly complex. Like while I rag on the energy expansion for being a little bit too complex, I can see this being too complex for some other people in a different way. I like the complexity that this adds. I like the fact that I get to walk on my map. I like the fact that I get to try to do a set collection thing, and it kind of encourages me to pick certain tiles over others for both the set collection I want to do and also for building the map, and so I can travel easier. But all in all, this does add a good bit of complexity to the game. So that is a thing to be mindful of. I did rank this one as an 8.5 out of 10. So I did rank it 1 whole point higher than what I ranked the base game of 7.5. So I do think this adds a lot of what I would be looking for personally in a board game. And it's also nice that I can play kind of railroad tiles, the base game, to kind of have like a simple, straightforward, like just putting my tiles and having fun. And then I can add this expansion, say, okay, I want to put my tiles, have fun, and also walk on my map. Like that feels fun to me. So that's really cool. I do appreciate that. This one comes with the monuments that you'll be placing. So it gives you these larger monuments that you'll be placing. These are pretty nice. They look pretty nice, and they're distinct enough to where you'll be able to tell the difference. So you have your temple, you have your arch, and you have your tower. And you'll be kind of putting these all over your map as you explore them and stuff, and at the end of the game, you'll get your points for them. So that's nice. And then you have your archaeologist, which your archaeologists look different from the player tiles, the player markers. Where are they? And here's the orange one. So they look pretty distinct from it. This is one that you use to figure out player order every round, and when you choose your column, you put this one down, but this is your archaeologist is moving around your board. So it's pretty nice. It's a nice little touch. So I appreciate this one. This is a good expansion. I personally think this is an essential expansion, but again, depends on what you're looking for in the game. And it gives you a nice little brown bag here. It's okay. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the color. I would prefer like a brighter color, but sure. Just kind of matching the theme here and being distinct and whatnot. And then finally, we have the Worlds expansion. Sorry, we have the Worlds expansion. So the Worlds expansion is actually just the base game with extra stuff. If you told me that this was the first expansion that Horrible Guild made for Railroad Tiles, I would believe you. That's not a bad thing, because this one I ranked as an 8.5 out of 10, definitely on par with Monuments in my opinion, and I think this is essential, especially if you're going to be playing this game a lot. I've played this game, as I said before, was it 49 times, 51, whatever number of times I've played this, And through my playthroughs, I've mostly played with a mix of some of the expansion objectives plus the base game objectives. And there's only 7 base game objectives. So I've seen every single base game objective at least twice in my playthroughs, because I did 2 playthroughs each, and I mean, it's 40 something playthroughs, so that's a lot. What the Worlds expansion gives you is it gives you 10 more expansions, or sorry, 10 more objectives that you can use. It also gives you some extra meeples that you can use. So these are special meeples that you can unlock at a specific time that give you kind of one-time power or one-time scoring. So it gives you a lot of fun things there. And on top of that, this is the only expansion, something I probably should have said at the top of the video, but the only expansion that is compatible with all the other expansions. What I mean by that is that if I'm playing the Monuments expansion and I want to throw in the Lakes expansion at the same time, you cannot do this. You cannot mix these two. But if I want to play the Lakes expansion and I want to use the World stuff, I can. So I can play the base game plus Worlds plus this, and it'll be fine. So the Worlds expansion I think is absolutely essential. If you are going to get this game, I do think the Worlds expansion gives you a lot. It basically turns the base game's 7 base objectives that you can get, the objective tiles, into 17, which is great for replayability and variety from playing game to game, because you use 3 of those tiles every game. And it's compatible with the expansion, so you can kind of mix and match, see different objectives, do different things, get some more challenges. And it also gives you the meeples that give you some powers, and these meeples are pretty nice. These placement abilities, and sometimes they're just extra points. Sometimes they're moving a whole tile from one spot to another spot. Sometimes they're like, you know, deleting a meeple that you have on the board so you can rescore it. And it's just really cool. It's just really cool. I can't praise it enough. I honestly don't think there's any flaws with this one. Actually, I'm gonna take it back. I do think there's a flaw with this one. The flaw with this one is that it's not included in the base game. I personally feel that if Railroad Tiles, the base game, did not have something like this, then Railroad Tiles, the base game, would just get really stale really fast. But because this exists, that also makes me a little bit frustrated, because I feel like, okay, you should just include all this in the base game, just to kind of have like an all-encompassing base game. So I'm not accusing anybody, or I'm not accusing Horrible Guild of like this is a cash grab or you guys are just trying to get extra money. I'm just more so saying that it would be nice if some of these objectives were included in the base game to kind of give you the variety. So for instance, the base game has a objective tile that's called gas station, and the gas station says basically have this tile be a part of an 8-road link, and the expansion has a equivalent for railroad tracks, which you have in the game, in the base game, and it has an equivalent called the quarry. And the quarries basically have this be a part of a run of 8 railroad tracks. So in my mind, it's like, why was that not included in the base game? I feel like that should have been included in the base game. Why do we only have 1 in the base game and then the other in the expansion? That feels weird to me. So there's some things like that that make me wonder, like maybe this was supposed to be a part of the base game, but they just kind of cut it out and said, hey, let's sell this separate for some reason. I don't know. But all in all, the Worlds expansion I think is absolutely essential. Yes, it's a little bit extra money that you have to pay, so I can see some people not liking that. But ultimately, I think it gives you a lot of variety, and it gives some extra legs to the base game. And I already think that the base game has enough legs. Like, I would not be offended at playing the base game 25 more times. I would just by itself, just to kind of put stuff down and see what you can get, because that serotonin rush that you get when putting your tiles down, that still exists. But I will say that the Worlds expansion does give you some extra variety. It gives you some extra things to change things up. It gives you some extra combinations, and it's compatible with the expansions to spice those up. So it's kind of an all-around winner for me, which is why I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. All right. So that is, and the Worlds one comes with the most stuff. I guess it doesn't come with tiles, but it comes with the most stuff. So it gives you these tiles that you can use to help people keep track of their meeples. So on the board, you'll put one of these down, and everybody will have that meeple. It also gives you, or special meeple. It also gives you 4 meeples of each of the special meeples. So everybody can have their own copy of that meeple, so they can put it on the board, similar in the way that they do the objective tiles in this game. So it gives you a whole bunch of those. Here are the rest of them. So when I say a whole bunch, I mean a whole bunch. And there you go. That's all the extra meeples. Oh, sorry, wrong camera. That's all the extra meeples it gives you right there. It gives you the objective tiles that you have, so it gives you a whole bunch of those, so you can have fun mix and matching those with the rest of the game. And yeah, that's kind of it. So it gives you this little cardboard over here, It gives you these meeples, it gives you these projectiles, and it gives you a reasonable amount of stuff. And I think it's a good value. I think it's a good value. All right. Okay, so I said I wasn't going to do like a review, but I ended up doing a review, so my apologies. This is like the third review that I've done of all the expansions, and I feel like my opinion has not changed much. My opinion changed a little bit for Lakes, but not by much. Not by much. So yeah, so that is kind of it. For those who are wondering, you know, what would I recommend for things? I guess you can kind of put this into 3 different camps. If you want a more complex game, then I would recommend these expansions. As in, you want more to be done with the game. You want more to be added to the game. I think these are your, I want the game to be more complex. Oh, sorry. I want the game to be more complex expansions. That's the monuments, that's the energy, and that's the countryside expansion. These 3 make the game, or give an extra layer of mechanic, give an extra layer of I guess, challenge to the game that I think is pretty welcome. If you want an expansion that's kind of more of the same, it doesn't change anything up, doesn't rock the boat too much, I think you're definitely Forest for sure. And yeah, Forest might be the only one. I think Forest and maybe, I'll throw Lakes in there, sure. Forest and Lakes are basically more of the same. Oh, actually, sorry. World, Forest, and Lakes are more of the same. I think these 3 will give you more of the same. Lakes is hard. It's a hard call because I would not include Lakes in this list. I don't think Lakes is that good. That's how much I don't like it. But my bias aside, I do think it doesn't change the game up a ton. It makes it a little bit more fiddly, but it doesn't change the game a ton. So as a result, I'll still include it in this little collection here. And then finally, if you want something that's kind of middle of the road, like it adds a little bit, but it doesn't add too much, I think Canals and Deserts is your go-to. Actually, now think about it, I will put Lakes in this one too. So it adds a little bit, but it doesn't add too much. I think Canals and Lakes. Oh, sorry, Canals, Lakes, and Deserts is your go-to, with the pecking order for these ones being Canals before Deserts, and then Deserts before Lakes. There. So these are 3 different categories. This is like, I want more game. I want more stuff to do. This is these 3 over here. So that's your monuments, that's your energy, and that's your countryside. These 2 are like, you know, I don't want to rock the boat too much. I just want a little bit of game. I just want a little bit more variety. These are your 2. The Worlds gives you more stuff for the base game, and then the Forest basically is the base game with prettier trees. And then finally, these are the, let's add a little bit in there, but not add too much. And that'll be these 3. With my arguments with Lakes is kind of Lakes is in a really weird spot. I think the filliness of it really hurts it. That's why I keep kind of going back and forth and waffling on if it should be here or here. But also, it does add another element. It does add another mechanic, and it's not a ton more. So I think it can kind of be in that category up there with those ones. So yeah, so there you go. And of course, if you want to know which my favorite one is for each of these categories, clearly Monuments, then Worlds, and then Canals. So those are my 3. Which is a little sad because Monuments and Countryside, I think, are in my top 3. So this is number 1, Worlds is number 2, and then Countryside is number 3. So it's a little sad that Worlds or Countryside loses out because Monuments is in the same category I just put in there, but whatever. I'm making this up as I go. So take it how you will. Okay, I've rambled on for far too long. This is the official end of the series. You might see some more videos added to it, especially if I can convince my friends to sit down and play some multiplayer games with me, so you can kind of get a look and feel about how the multiplayer looks and feels. But otherwise, you might just see more solo playthroughs because I just enjoy this game a lot. Like I said, I've played it 50 times and I'm okay with playing it 50 more. So this has definitely been a fun experience for me overall. I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely had the fun of placing down tiles. I had the fear of not getting tiles that of not getting tiles that I wanted, and I've also had the heartbreak of things just falling apart. So all the emotions, the whole spectrum has been here, and I appreciate that greatly. So great game. I like it a lot. I'd recommend it. Even if you get any of these expansions, I think you're not going to go wrong. Arguments about Lakes, but any of these expansions you're not going to go wrong. Even Lakes I'll include in that because I think it just adds stuff and it kind of changes things up a little bit, so that's pretty fun. All right, so that's going to be it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it, and as always, I will see you all whenever.